Hi, I'm Sarita Dankner, Associate General Counsel and Corporate Secretary for ATS Corporation, and today we're celebrating International Women's Day. The theme this year is Give to Gain, and the idea is that giving to gain encourages a mindset of generosity and collaboration, emphasizing the power of reciprocity and support in creating a stronger and more connected community. At ATS, that means that we believe that when leaders give their time and trust and support and opportunities, that everybody benefits. And today, I am so pleased that we are joined by Sarah Moore. Sarah just recently joined ATS as the leader of the Life Sciences Group. The Life Sciences Group is a global provider of automation solutions, equipment, products, and support in the life sciences sector. Sarah, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Sarita. I'm thrilled to be a part of the ATS organization and thrilled to get to sit here with you and talk about International Women's Day and Give to Gain and the wonderful things that women bring to the workplace.
So happy to have you. Let's start with you. Tell us a little bit about yourself, personally and professionally.
Sure, no problem. So I have been in healthcare. I'm kind of a lifer in healthcare, been in healthcare for over 20 years in a lot of different verticals. So med device, imaging, diagnostics, life sciences. Really love it. And I'm driven by the personal desire to help people. You know, the beauty of healthcare is we're at the intersection of helping clinicians help patients every day. So that's a little bit about me professionally. I'd say personally, have an awesome husband and 2 stepdaughters. I love to run. I'm a half marathoner and marathoner, though you wouldn't know it now. I'm out of shape. But I enjoy doing that, and I love traveling.
Great. So happy to have you here. Can you tell us a little bit about the experiences or influences that helped shape your path?
You know, I can. And this is, I love to share because I think it feeds how one leads based on your own experiences. And I have had some just amazing mentor relationships in my career. I would say, you know, I started as a biochemist, not really knowing how to use that, just knowing that I wanted to apply it to help people. And I had some really, really fantastic mentors early in my career that shaped the decisions that I have subsequently made and the way that I approach my career. So I'll hit you with maybe just a couple of examples of that. And this one I find this is one of these pay it forward kind of advices that I got. One is to slow down. You know, early in your career, you just want to move through roles. You want to just, okay, I've been there, I've done it, I've conquered, what's next? But there is such rich learnings when you spend a sufficient amount of time in a position or a role to kind of learn the strategies you put in flight, what works, what doesn't. And oftentimes, if you're in a position for less than about 2 years, you just don't appreciate or understand well enough what worked, what didn't. And that's where you're rich with learning. So I found I was in kind of a rush to get through my career. And the more I took that counsel and that advice, the better I became at being a leader, the better I became at running the business, et cetera. So that would be one area that was early career advice I got. I also had a leader that this really shaped the decisions that I made through my career. I remember I had joined Siemens and I was in sales in computed tomography and so CT scanning. And he said, you know, Sarah, you can have an amazing career that's very vertically oriented. So if you enjoy sales, you can sales management, sales leadership, you can kind of stay that path. Or you can jump and become more horizontal in a business and jump to different seats in the organization to really learn business from a different vantage point. Analytics, strategy, marketing, business unit management. And it will probably move you out of the discipline that you're in, but it will help round you as a leader. And I would say I made the decision to not have a vertically focused career. I've had the chance to sit in a lot of different positions in organizations and really learn a lot about how do we deliver for customers and deliver for the business just because I've had a chance to see the business from different viewpoints. So that's one that really shaped the decisions that I made.
That's amazing. I would expect that that's probably something that you've not only infused into your own behavior throughout your career, but one that you're sharing with other people as they enter into theirs.
Exactly. I think it's so important, when I meet with in the mentor relationships I have, whether they're formal relationships or informal relationships, it's one of the pieces, it's a question that I ask, if you look forward in your career in the things that intersect your interests and your passion, less a title, but more so what really interests you, there's 1,000 paths to get you there. And so let's talk about the areas that help round your capabilities. And then you're on a capabilities dialogue rather than I want this title and I want to be a director and I want to do that. And I think it really helps guide associates who are a little younger in their career about how they should think about growing the skill sets needed to do what they ultimately want to do.
Agreed. I think it's not titles that fulfill us. It's the substance of the role that fulfills us, right?
Yep, exactly.
So tell us what drew you to ATS.
Yes, I can do that. Yes, a good one. Almost no matter what vertical you're in, there is so much inefficiency, unfortunately, in healthcare. And there's such a burden of patient volumes, a desire to discover new treatments, and then identify how do you prevent rather than deal with chronic illness. There's just a lot of variables that health systems and healthcare has to deal with. There was a great article by McKinsey consulting company that said by 2030, there will be 30% less physicians in certain key verticals in healthcare than there are today, 30% less doctors. And if there's less doctors, you need to fundamentally change the way you're practicing medicine, the way that patients move through systems. So it was this kind of wake-up call article for industry and for healthcare that, guys, there's no more time to iterate in the way that we learn, the way that we do. And industry has got to do more than iterate solutions. And I'll tell you, I've been around a lot of different healthcare verticals where they look at automation. And I look at what we do here, and I mean, it's magnitudes different. The first time I came in and walked at Life Science Systems and looked at what we define automation, it is a game changer. And I just got so excited thinking, oh my gosh, ATS has an extremely relevant place in the spaces we play in life science to absolutely transform the way we look at automating processes that underpin the way we deliver healthcare. So that got me really excited about ATS. And I would say secondarily, the more time I spend here, the people are really amazing. And I think that that's a secret sauce in most organizations who really recognize that the people are what make the organization. That's the place I want to be.
That's really powerful. So now you're at ATS and there's all sorts of opportunities ahead. Was leadership something you always envisioned, or was it something that just evolved over time for you?
Great question. I would say I had a chance. So when I was young, I played a lot of sports, and I always preferred the team sports, right? There's just something about doing what seems like impossible and having a colleague or a sports partner to your right and your left to get there. So really always enjoyed what teams can really do. You're better as a team. You'll get further, maybe not faster, but you get further in a better way, a more sustainable way if you do it with people. And so that really led me into leadership, is just the love of having a team around me, to be able to take great feedback from all the different people that are sitting in that team to define how we're going to, whether it's win a deal, whether it's grow the business, whether it's support a colleague, those kind of things led me into leadership. And those are the elements I still really love today.
Were there moments along the way where you felt challenged, inflection points where, your direction or your objective meaningfully shifted? What did that look like for you, your journey?
Yeah, Sarita, it's interesting because with the example I gave that I chose after getting great feedback from an informal mentor about being willing to sit in different seats in an organization to learn, I had a couple of leaders who really mobilized really great opportunities for me that were way outside of the skill set I was walking in with. So I had to have some pretty significant learning agility. And I remember one, I had a great leader when I was in Siemens. I was a region sales manager managing about a $60 million territory. And the vice president of our MRI business in North America came up, and it was $1 billion P&L. So 60 million to $1 billion, and a whole team and scientists and everything. And he said, listen, I think you should step into this. I think it would be great. And I said, I'm not an expert in MRI. And he said, I have 1,000 experts in MRI. I need an expert in the business. And I had to build credibility. And those moments when you're trying to build credibility with people who have significantly greater domain expertise than you do, those are hard moments, inflection moments where you think, oh boy, did I sign up for something that maybe I'm too far over my skis. But I have found when you develop a great network of people around you who want the business to succeed and you to succeed, they do everything they can to lift you, and then you lift them where you can, right? Where you have complementary skill sets. So I would say I've had a number of those challenging moments where I stepped into something and thought, okay, this is big. How do I do this? But I feel like that network of folks around you and the ability and willingness to be very learning agile were key contributors to overcoming and slaying dragons, so to speak, overcoming those challenges.
You have to have the courage, though, to lean in.
Yeah.
And at the same time, rely on those around you. You have to trust, be given that trust to move forward.
Yeah, and that's the element of the team. I think about the team and leadership. Leadership at its core, you have to trust one another, you know, and how do you build an environment that has trust, that everyone understands, hey, we're going to go through, I always use the example of like the Tough Mudders where you're bear crawling and you're doing all that, but you're doing it to meet the end and you're doing it together. And so I think a little bit, there's moments where you're up on the top of the mountain and moments where you're bear crawling your way through the valley, but you're doing it together. So yeah, and I leaned on a lot of people throughout my career who've helped us bear crawl our way through the business. But I feel also that I've been the one who's gotten over whatever the obstacle, and I'm pulling people up as well. That's, I think, what it's all about, is that mutual exchange of trust and partnership.
Yeah, and it's absolutely as rewarding to give as to get.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So back to our theme of giving to gain. Let's keep talking about leadership. I think it's as much about people and culture as it is about strategy. It seems to me from what you're describing that you seem to think along those same lines. So tell me more about your leadership style. How is it that you drive the objectives you seek, still bringing those people along in the way that you want?
Yeah, it's such an important question, Sarita. The tenets of my leadership style have become grounded in accountability and empathy. You know, you got to give grace. We're all people. We're doing our best in the way that we show up at work, and we work in an environment that moves at a very high velocity and volume. And sometimes you're spinning plates, you drop a plate, and you got to give grace to say, okay, let's pick the plate up, let's keep going. But we're accountable. We're accountable to deliver for one another. We're accountable to deliver the quarterly results. We're accountable to deliver for our customers, right? And so we've got to make sure that we own the misses that we've had and the areas that we're doing well. We lean in to make the misses better. And that's what I love about ATS, is this kind of continuous mindset improvement. Hey, we're going to continue to improve and we're going to do better the next time. Where we're doing really great, how do we steal shamelessly? And I would say that's maybe another area. I've had some really amazing leaders across my career. I'm a big fan of stealing shamelessly. I worked for a fantastic female leader in a former role, and she was just brilliant in so many of the ways she addressed the business and dressed. And I would listen to her in meetings and just try to copycat her. I'm like, I want to do it like she does it. Or leaders where they bring a wonderful style on how they mobilize people, or how they push people to do more than they thought they could do. And so I consider myself today as much of a work in progress on learning as I am in trying to lead. And how do we take the great pieces of leadership that we appreciate ourselves and then mobilize that forward?
So that brings us to an interesting point around continuous improvement. What's your perspective on continuous improvement as it relates to mentorship and coaching?
I really look at mentorship and coaching is ongoing activities. And I know that a lot of times mentorship gets framed as an event. Sarah, we're assigning you a mentor and Sarita's your mentor. And then I say, okay, Sarita, can we talk once a quarter? It doesn't have to have that level of structure around it. It can be, hey, I've put together a strat plan. I just want a different set of eyes on it. You come from a great vantage point. Would you mind offering me feedback? And I think any good leader should give time. Give to gain, right? Give time forward and play it forward, whether that's an informal request or whether that's a formal structured. And I've gotten better. Mentoring takes a little while, both as you mentor and you mentee, to understand how to do it well. You don't show up and just kind of casually chat. You show up with a goal. Hey, I'd like to frame this meeting up this way, or this is where I need your help. This is very specifically where I'm struggling, or where I think I've got an idea, but I want another opinion. And so when I look at mentoring and coaching, I look at it as a continuous process.
Mentees obviously hopefully do gain a lot from the experience, from the mentorship experience. What can mentors gain from the experience?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I'd say two things. The first is, as you coach and you work with somebody as a mentor, and you identify areas to help them experientially grow, because that's oftentimes when learnings get sticky, is when you're forced to put it in motion or action. Pulling a mentee along with you as a mentor and saying, hey, I want to give you an experience where you kind of learn by doing, right? And there's a lot of reward. A lot of my mentees have solved really important problems in a business. And I've said, hey, would you sit in on this goal deployment? Or would you sit in on this meeting? And they bring amazing perspective and insight. So they help us solve problems differently than if they weren't at the table. So I would say for the business, that's been one way that has really been a fantastic benefit. The other thing that I would say, Sarita, I had a chance to mentor a few just amazing women in a former organization that were part of our Black and Friends Association. And I spent as much time having them mentor me as, you have these macroeconomic things and the events that unfolded over the past years where society really grapples with tough questions. And I felt I learned as much from them as they learned from me. And I think that's a wonderful exchange of partnership, collaboration value that as a mentor, even though they were my mentee, I turned the tables and said, would you mind mentoring me on this topic? Because I want to do better. I want to understand as a leader how I can be more impactful on really tough social issues or topics that are happening. How do I show up better for our associates? And they were incredible that they leaned into that. So that would be, I think the second way is mentors should really look at, how can they also grow through that person that they're helping along the way.
Absolutely. And you described yourself as a work in progress. I think we all are. I think that we should all strive to be, because there's always room to learn and to improve. But what leadership behaviors have you really landed on as the ones you try to model that you really believe in?
Yes, great question. I would say do what you say and say what you do. I'm a fan of the statement, we all sweep floors. As a leader, your responsibility is to roll your sleeves up and do the work too. And the more you show an associate that you're willing to kind of roll the sleeves up and sit alongside of them and do the work with them, you're willing to take the tough call with a customer, you're willing to fill out the RFP one night, you're willing to do those things, the more that you model that, hey, we're going to all get there together. And I would say I've really learned that cultures in organizations and values are best lived through the actions that your associates and your teams see, not through the words that you say. There's a great quote that says, be careful, your actions are screaming over your words. Mm-hmm. And I really believe that. So I think modeling the elements of a willingness to not say, that's not my job, or not now, to say, hey, now is good, let's do this, to act with the level of urgency I expect my organization to act with. I would say, and I think you do the same thing, from what I've seen in this organization, just modeling this behavior of, hey, I'm going to give, and I'm hoping the organization will respond and behave the same way, because it will make us all better.
Ultimately, we have to be true to who we are be authentic and genuine in our everyday. And hopefully that resonates with our teams and our company. And if it does, I feel like we're in the right place.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what about leadership behaviors or myths that should be retired as, that you don't believe that's true?
Yes. So I'm a big Simon Sinek fan. Simon Sinek really actively leads through people, right? That there's a right way and a wrong way to lead, and that corporations and organizations need to recognize that their most valuable asset is people. And how do you mobilize the organization to achieve the great things we need to achieve? And it's kind of the anti-Jack Welch way of doing things. And, I really do believe that. I think when corporations lose sight that of people as the core resource, as the center of the universe, the customers, the patients, the people, you lose sight of what's important. Shareholders are super important part of what we do, but our people are an important part of what we do. And how do we make sure that we have the right balance there? So.
Yeah, well said. Absolutely agree. People matter. People are so important in the equation. What is one small give that leaders can give to people that is underestimated but can really help people grow?
I would say accessibility and authenticity. Your calendar gets stack up and stack up and stack up, and you realize that you're not actually walking around and saying hello to people, or you're not making yourself accessible. And so how do you become more accessible to help teams to lean in, to do fireside chats, to have dialogues, to jump into like a President's Kaizen and actually roll your sleeves up alongside of associates and do it yourself? I think that that's really critical for leaders. And I would say authenticity as well. Leadership isn't about just being nice. You've got to be kind and you've got to give grace, but you also have to coach. And sometimes it's saying, gosh, guys, like time out. Let's take a time out. Let's really look at this through a different lens, because the path we're going down may not be the best path. So how do you kind of get people to regroup and think a little bit differently? One of the best things I ever had when I remember I brought this presentation to this really very smart attorney in Siemens. And I said to him, hey, could you have a look at this presentation? Because I have to present it to the board. And he read through it and he said, what are you even asking for in this presentation? I remember I was like, oh my gosh, because the feedback was really direct. I mean, it was kind of hard feedback. And, but I digested and I thought, he's totally right. I got to reframe this whole thing. And he gave some guidance on what I should do. And to this day, that moment sticks with me. And, maybe it's good that I played basketball and I've got a thick skin, because I think, I could have been like, that could have really knocked me back a couple steps, the way that he kind of addressed it. But his points were so spot on. And it really redirected me in a way that I carry with me today. I think about that every time I've got content that I'm putting in front of a board or a CEO or a customer. Hey, what am I trying to say? Am I effectively articulating the message and the ask as a part of this? And I learned that in one moment, on one presentation, on one informal ask.
And you've never forgotten it.
And I've never forgotten it. I mean, this is like 17 years later.
Right.
Yeah.
What does giving look like as a leader on a day-to-day basis for you? Like practically speaking?
To pick up the phone, to recognize the really great work that associates are doing or that our teams are doing, and say, you had a really great idea last week. And I don't know if you recognize how great an idea. What do we need to do to actually get this thing with legs? Like, what does actioning that look like? And so I think it's just really having it front of mind, the decisions you make, the things that you do. As leaders, a lot of time people are watching to see what you do, how you react, and how you show up as a leader. And so we've got to be really conscious of day to day living what we expect. That's how I try to show up, again, authentically, so that people know it's not staged, it's not rehearsed, it's authentic interest.
Can you tell us about a time when someone gave you something really memorable? I know you talked about the presentation feedback, but a moment of giving where you felt that someone gave you trust or opportunity or support that really meant meaningful change for you.
Yeah, I definitely can. I think I'll use an example. There was one risk I took where I stepped in and I had a very, very deep experience in a chunk of the business and was very shallow in hands-on experience in another part of the business. And I thought, oh, like I gotta engage in these verticals that I don't have a lot of domain expertise. So I would say you don't know where the bodies are buried, right? You don't know what to ask. You don't know how to engage in a really fruitful way. And I had a couple of other leaders in the company I was working with that had really deep domain expertise. And I remember saying to one, would you come down there with me for a week? I just want to see through your eyes, because you're going to see things I'm not going to see, because you do this every day, right? You work in clean rooms, you do these things. And he was like, hot dang, I will. Yeah, let's go down there. And so we spent a week, and I learned more in that week listening to what he asked, walking the walls with him, the daily management walls, and engaging with the teams that I felt like I walked out miles ahead of where I would have if I just tried to figure it out on my own. And that willingness out of key partners, stakeholders in the business to take a day, an hour, a week out of their time to say, of course I'll help you. Like, let's go do this. I always try to give back the same if I can be of assistance to somebody, because those moments have meant so much to me.
So what's wonderful about that, I think I'm understanding, is that this wasn't your boss. And so giving to gain isn't just a top-down concept. Yes, of course, we believe that it has impact when leaders give and the benefit we can derive from that. But that's also our colleagues. That's also our teams. That's everyone we work with, that if you give, you can gain. And really beyond work, of course, as well, into our communities, into our personal lives. It's such a powerful concept.
It is. And these folks who helped, they didn't even work in my direct organization. They worked in a completely other part of the organization, and I just happened to know them. But having somebody who's willing to lean in that way, when you get the phone call and someone says, can you come help me with this? My first answer is yes. Yes, when? How can I help?
How can I help? That's wonderful. So I'd love to go back to the ideas of how giving to gain aligns with the concepts of mentorship and sponsorship, and maybe talk a little bit about the difference between the two.
Yeah, definitely. And I'll talk through my own experience. If I kind of categorically look at a few different things. Mentorship, let me just start there. Mentorship is a game changer. One of the things that I learned early in my career is you own your career. You own the development of your career, and you need people to help you get there, but you don't sit back and wait for somebody to call you. You got to own kind of getting out there and doing it. And mentorship is an amazing way to start that journey, especially as you work with mentors who are maybe more advanced in their career. They're in a position that you maybe someday aspire to be in. The coaching that they can give you and the awareness that they can drive is enormously important. So the first thing that I would say is, for anyone that is on the fence or thinking about, do I jump into a mentor opportunity or don't I would say with passion, yes. It's just an incredible opportunity. So I would say mentorship is super important. When I look at the relationships that I've had in my career, you've got people who mentor that really help you understand, how do I get from point A to point B? What are the capabilities I can build? How do they help you develop that? There's a couple different categories, and I think you touched on it, Sarita, with sponsorship. I look at that kind of straddling two areas in my own experience. I've had good champions in my career where those champions, when you're sitting in an Oregon talent review and somebody's saying, gosh, I have this role open, does anyone come to mind? They would say, you know who you should try, who seems pretty open to trying new things and has good learning agility? You should ask Sarah if she has an interest in that. And so I see a champion as somebody who knows and believes in your skills. And if they hear of a opportunity, they will throw your name in the hat because they are confident that you could do a good job, right? They're sitting at tables, maybe you're not. And then I look at mobilizers, and I had just the most fantastic leader for a lot of my career in Siemens, who was an amazing mobilizer of opportunities. And he gave me opportunities that were probably way above my skill set. And he said, I know you can do it, and I'm going to help you get there. And so he would mobilize and actually create opportunities. And I just had to be the one to say yes to it, right? And he created a number of those opportunities in my career. So he did more than just throw my name out in a meeting and champion that I would be a good person to consider for that. He actually helped create those opportunities that gave me an ability to illustrate my learning agility and ability to grow. And so as you look across your career and as you're looking and working with your mentor, I would look at your network of people that you know and, hey, who's going to champion? And obviously, foundationally, you have to do a good job in your role. You have to be somebody people want to get behind and champion and mentor. But who are the people that are going to mobilize on your behalf? And how do you really make sure that you understand how to engage with those people and how to identify your mentors versus your champions versus your mobilizers?
So I love that word, mobilizer. It's a very powerful word. And this year, ATS is marking International Women's Day by making a generous donation in your honor to a charity of your choice, and you chose Women in Bio. Can you tell us a little bit about why that means something to you personally?
Early in my life, I had really amazing teachers and people in my life that got me really excited about the sciences and said, heck yes, you can be somebody in sciences and you can do that. And I look at a lot of the STEM programs, Girls Who Code, incredible opportunities to get girls and women into sciences and to know that, hey, I can be an engineer, I can be in tech. Women in Bio is really exciting. There's so much opportunity in life science, and life science is all about discovery. I was very excited to have this opportunity by ATS to be able to donate to Women in Bio and make a difference to our future generation of women who are going to make a huge difference in life sciences.
That is incredibly inspiring, so powerful. Now that we're closing off on the conversation, what are you most excited to build now that you're at ATS?
I am really excited. You know, when you look at the legacy I think we're going to leave behind in this organization, I get excited about the step change opportunity we have to make an enormous impact. I feel like we're at this point in healthcare that's exponential, you know, with artificial intelligence and sciences and automation and digitization. The intersection of those things is going to hyperspeed innovation. And we are sitting so well positioned to be a major catalyst in that process. So I'm excited that 5 years from now, you and I are sitting talking about the amazing things this organization has done and the things that we've done to make healthcare better, but also how much we've grown this organization.
I'm excited too. And we're really excited to have you here and on the journey with us. I think it's going to make a huge impact.
Oh, thank you.
Now, if people can take one thing away from this conversation today, what would you like that to be?
That's a great question. Okay, I would say these two things. For all the ladies out there, game on. Let's go, ladies. Like, let's make it happen. We're super excited for International Women's Day and for all the things that we can do to really mobilize change, not only in ATS, but in life sciences. Second, I better see you on the mentor program. So please sign up for mentorship. It will make a tremendous difference for you.
Thank you so much, Sarah.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us.